which I got to fight, I got a hell of a lot of weapons to fight. I got my claws, I got compasses, I got guns, I got dynamite, I got a hell of a lot to fight. I'll fight, I'll fight, I will fight, I will fight, I will fight, I will fight.
Long before the images of hundreds of bodies in the jungle shocked the world, Jonestown was sold as a paradise, a sanctuary from racism, inequality and political chaos. But inside the settlement, a different reality was unfolding. Food was scarce, guards patrolled the perimeter, and the man at the centre of it all was drifting deeper into paranoia, addiction, and absolute power. How did Jim Jones transform from an activist preacher to the architect of one of the deadliest cult tragedies in modern history? Today, we revisit Jonestown, not just the horror of its final day, but the psychological machinery that built it piece by piece. This case raises a heartbreaking question. How did more than 900 people, many of them idealistic, compassionate, and searching for community, end up dying under the direction of a single man? Just a disclaimer, all commentary, theories, and analysis presented in this video are for informational and entertainment purposes only. Opinions shared are speculative and are not intended to accuse, harm, defame, or misrepresent any person, group, or organisation. And finally, if you enjoy the video, please remember to like and subscribe. Background. James Warren Jones was born on May 13, 1931, in Crete, Indiana, into poverty and instability. His family struggled financially, and his father, a disabled World War I veteran, was distant and emotionally unavailable. His mother, however, believed she'd received prophetic visions about her unborn child, and frequently told Jim he was destined for greatness. These early messages planted the seeds of a grandiose self-concept that would later evolve into dangerous delusions. As a child, Jones displayed strange and disturbing behaviours. He became obsessed with religion and death, performing funerals for animals he killed, experimenting with ceremony, and mimicking church rituals. He demanded control in his childhood friend group, often casting himself as minister or ruler. He shot BB guns at other children, terrified them with pranks, and was known to be domineering, intense, and socially isolated. Despite these troubling traits, he was highly intelligent and capable of memorizing long passages of scripture. This ability impressed adults and gave him an early taste of admiration, something he would chase throughout the remainder of his life. After his father died, financial pressures forced Jones to work at a local hospital, where he showed a disturbing comfort handling corpses. Co-workers noted that he seemed unfazed by tasks most people avoided. This early exposure to death and bodily suffering shaped his later desensitization to human pain. In the early 1950s, Jones began working with churches, blending Christian teachings with socialist ideals. In 1955, he founded what would become the People's Temple, a movement that initially emphasized racial equality, community support, and social justice. Whether this activism was rooted in authentic belief or opportunistic positioning remains debated, but it attracted followers who admired his message of integration and compassion. Jones was charismatic, theatrical, and skilled at psychological insight. He listened carefully to private details members shared, then revealed those details later as if he were reading minds. Over time, he escalated into staged healings, manipulating congregants into believing he possessed supernatural power. By the early 1960s, Jones staged a fake assassination attempt on himself. He claimed malevolent forces were trying to silence him, and this narrative became central to his identity. Shortly after, he predicted a nuclear attack on Indianapolis, convincing followers to move to California. The first major relocation driven by fear. Rise of the People's Temple. Once in California, Jones expanded aggressively. He built temples in Redwood Valley, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. The People's Temple grew to nearly 3,000 members by the early 1970s, drawing national attention. Politicians courted his support. He served on the San Francisco Housing Authority Commission, Celebrities admired his humanitarian image. Inside the temple, however, conditions were markedly different. Jones used public confessions, emotional manipulation, forced loyalty rituals, sleep deprivation, and staged healing events to maintain control. Members donated their savings, pensions, and property. Many lived communally and depended on the temple for food, housing, income, and social identity. Jones increasingly portrayed himself as divine, telling members he was the reincarnation of Jesus, Buddha, or Lenin. His drug use escalated dramatically, and he wore sunglasses constantly to hide his red, dilated eyes. He claimed they protected followers from the power radiating from his gaze. His sermons shifted from Christian language to an ideology centered around himself, a blend of Marxism, apocalyptic fear, and personal worship. As media scrutiny increased, allegations surfaced about abuse, financial exploitation, and manipulation within the temple. Jones's paranoia intensified. He believed enemies were closing in. He needed an escape. Construction of Jonestown. In 1974, the People's Temple leased land in the Guyanese jungle to build an agricultural settlement. Initially marketed as a utopian refuge, the site was remote, undeveloped, and difficult to farm. A small team worked for years clearing land, building cabins, and creating infrastructure, but progress was slow. When exposés about the temple surfaced in 1977, Jones triggered a mass relocation. Hundreds of followers, many elderly or vulnerable, were flown or shipped to Guyana. Their passports were confiscated, their contact with family monitored, and their movement restricted. Life in Jonestown was harsh. The soil resisted cultivation. Food shortages became routine. Days consisted of labour-intensive work in extreme heat, followed by hours-long political or religious lectures broadcast over loudspeakers. Jones slept little, ranted constantly, and increasingly relied on amphetamines and barbiturates. The settlement's isolation allowed Jones to reshape reality. He told residents that the outside world was hostile, racist, and intent on destroying them. He framed Jonestown as the only safe place left on Earth. Armed guards, the Red Brigade, patrolled the perimeter. Defectors were hunted down and punished. Letters were censored. Medical care was controlled. Sleep was restricted. Jones's voice was omnipresent through loudspeakers echoing day and night. Other members tried to leave, but were threatened with violence, shamed publicly, or physically restrained. Some residents stayed voluntarily, believing deeply in the temple's mission. Many were simply too frightened or physically weakened to challenge Jones's authority. The road to disaster. By mid-1978, Jonestown was already trembling under the weight of an impending disaster. Conditions were deteriorating rapidly, and the psychological landscape was shifting towards something volatile. Food had become increasingly scarce. Meals often consisted of rice, diluted gravy, and meagre servings of vegetables. Hunger weakened the community physically and mentally, making them more dependent on Jones's reassurance. Jones intensified White Nights, the rehearsals for mass death. He framed them as survival drills, claiming that hostile forces would soon attack the settlement. Each rehearsal eroded clarity, creating a climate where residents could no longer distinguish between hypothetical scenarios and real directives. The Red Brigade's surveillance increased as Jones's paranoia peaked. They monitored conversations, controlled movement, and enforced discipline with public punishments. Some residents described living in a constant state of hypervigilance. Forming alliances became dangerous. Trust was weaponized. Jones himself was deteriorating. His drug use had spiraled. He often appeared disoriented, sweating heavily, slurring words, and barely able to stand during his hours-long monologues. He spoke about enemies, conspiracies, and impending destruction. Residents lost sleep, lost perspective, and increasingly lost hope. From the outside, Jonestown still projected an image of order and purpose, but inside the atmosphere was thick with dread. Several members attempted escapes during this period. Some succeeded, many did not. Those recaptured were beaten, drugged, or confined. By the time Congressman Leo Ryan announced plans to visit Jonestown, the settlement was already a tightly wound spring. Any significant trigger, any sign of external interference, could have sent the community hurtling toward the catastrophe Jones had been conditioning them for. Ryan's arrival merely accelerated the inevitable.
Hello, family. I just want to say how thankful I am to Father to be here. It's the most marvelous experience in my life to have an apostolic way of life, a real apostolic way of life, where there's no pressures that you feel like in the States. There's no racism here, and it's the most beautiful feeling to not have those kind of pressures and tensions every day. And I just wanted to say that I speak to government officials daily, and they have the most respect for Father's character of anyone I've ever met. They're just, or of any people, they are so impressed with his consistency because they can see it down here demonstrated.
The crisis point. Congressman Leo Ryan. On November 17, 1978, Congressman Leo Ryan arrived with journalists and concerned relatives. Jonestown's leadership attempted to present the settlement as thriving. Residents were instructed to deny any mistreatment. Guards stood nearby during conversations. Smiles were rehearsed, but cracks formed quickly. That night some members confidentially slipped notes to the congressman and reporters, begging for help. Others whispered their desire to leave, but were clearly terrified. Jones appeared disorganized and paranoid during the visit. He rambled about government plots and persecution. He seemed physically weak, propped up by aides. By the following morning, tensions were visible across the settlement. When Ryan and the defectors attempted to leave, Jonestown erupted. At the Port Kaituma airstrip, armed temple members ambushed the group. Congressman Ryan, 3 journalists and 1 defector were killed. Several others were injured. Simultaneously, temple member Larry Layton opened fire inside one of the planes. When news of the attack reached Jones, he declared that the temple had crossed a line of no return. In his view, the outside world would descend upon Jonestown with lethal force. He used this to justify the event he had been preparing for months.
Dignity. Lay down your life with dignity. Don't lay down with tears and agony. There's nothing to death. It's like Max said, it's just stepping over into another plane. Don't be this way. Stop this hysterics. This is not the way for people who are socialists, communists to die. No way for us to die. We must die with some dignity. Soon we'll have no choice. Now we have some choice. You think they're going to allow this to be done and allow us to get by with this?
Must be insane.
Children, it's just something to put you to rest. Oh, God. Mother, 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 please. Mother, please, 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 don't do this, don't do this.
The mass poisoning. Jones summoned the entire community to the central pavilion. What unfolded next was not a spontaneous act. It was the execution of a plan Jones had been mentally constructing and rehearsing long before that final day. Poison tubs were prepared with cyanide, flavour aid, Valium and chloral hydrate. Much of the cyanide had been purchased earlier under the guise of pest control. Syringes were prepared for children and infants, and temple nurses, many deeply indoctrinated, were assigned to administer the injections. Jones framed the act as revolutionary suicide, insisting they were choosing dignity over torture. He claimed that defectors had doomed them all, and that US forces were minutes away. He ordered the children to be killed first. This was a calculated decision. Once children died, parents were psychologically broken. Their resistance evaporated under grief, fear, and despair. Some parents screamed, refused, or begged for alternatives. Armed guards stood nearby. Temple nurses restrained children who resisted or struggled. Those who hesitated faced ridicule, threats, or physical force. Adults were then told to drink the poison from paper cups. Survivors who escaped into the jungle later described scenes of pleading, crying, and terror as the poison took effect. Cyanide causes seizures, breathing failure, and violent muscle contractions. The sounds of suffering spread across the pavilion. Some individuals attempted to flee but were chased by the Red Brigade. Others were injected forcibly. A few were held down. Many surrendered simply because there was no path to safety and no hope of survival. Throughout the chaos, Jones spoke calmly over the loudspeaker, offering justification, spiritualized language, and emotional manipulation. He framed the deaths as acts of unity and resistance. His final broadcast was chillingly detached from the suffering around him. Once the sound in the pavilion faded, Jones retreated to a small cottage. He died from a gunshot wound to the head. Evidence strongly suggests suicide, though the possibility of assistance has been debated. By the time Guyanese officials arrived, 909 people were dead. Bodies were found across walkways, against buildings, on the ground beneath trees, and in clusters around the pavilion. Many lay in family groups, still holding hands. The tragedy was not a moment of collective madness. It was the culmination of months of psychological conditioning, deprivation, isolation, escalating fear, and the unchecked power of a man who viewed his followers as extensions of himself. Psychological analysis of Jim Jones. Jim Jones exhibited traits consistent with narcissistic, antisocial, and paranoid personality patterns. His personality was defined by grandiosity, fantasies of unlimited power, a belief that he was uniquely special, a need for constant admiration, entitlement, manipulative tendencies, lack of empathy, paranoia, and extreme sensitivity to criticism. His drug dependence likely exacerbated paranoia and disorganized thinking. He used amphetamines heavily, which can induce delusions, agitation, and a sense of invincibility. He believed enemies surrounded the temple. He spoke frequently about martyrdom and death as liberation. Jones thrived on controlling vulnerable individuals. He targeted the lonely, the idealistic, the marginalized, and the traumatized. Once they were inside the temple, he dismantled their identity, isolated them from loved ones, and created an environment where dissent felt impossible and escape felt fatal. His rise and fall demonstrate how charisma, ideology, and psychological manipulation can combine into something catastrophic when left unchecked. Final thoughts. Jonestown is often simplified as mass suicide. It was not. It was mass coercion under conditions where fear, exhaustion, isolation, and psychological manipulation removed people's capacity to resist. Many victims had joined the temple because they wanted a better world, a place of equality, dignity, and belonging. Jones weaponized those hopes, turning them into tools of control. This case underscores the importance of skepticism, critical thinking, and strong social boundaries. It demonstrates how dangerous a leader can become when they are surrounded by unquestioning devotion and shielded from accountability. Those are my thoughts on the case of Jim Jones and the tragedy at Jonestown. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and feel free to comment any case you'd like me to cover in the future. I hope you found this breakdown informative. If you have enjoyed the video, please remember to like and subscribe. It helps the channel out immensely. Thank you for your time, and I will see you again on the next one.